dating, relationships, partnerships, friendships, you don't have to be perfect. And I think because we're trying to be perfect, we put on a mask.
Right.
So it's now like when you're going out and dating, you're trying to show this other person this false sense of who you are.
Right, right.
And then they fall for that false sense of what you're showing them. So eventually when you get to a point where you actually meet each other and you kind of, I could take the mask off. Who are you?
Right.
Who is this person? This is not the person that I like because we put on this persona of perfection. So it's like to remind, like men specifically, remind yourself, you do not have to be perfect in any space.
Right.
And the people who do not give you space to be imperfect are not the people you need to align with.
Yeah.
You don't have to force your way to showing them that you're worthy. You don't have to force your way to trying to get their validation. You just need to walk away.
Right.
Leave.
Yeah, and I want to ask you this too, because we always talk about red flags, bro. And you just talked about like aligning with folks that like make sense for you. So what are some green flags, bro? I want to flip that question because we always talk about the red flags. So what do you think are some green flags for a relationship?
Green flags.
And we can talk about from black man's perspective.
Yeah, I'll talk about green flags for me because I think that could help inform.
For sure.
First and foremost is effective communication.
Okay.
So it's your ability to be open, honest, and transparent, and being able to communicate that in a way that not only is like intentional, but is also in a way in which I can receive it. Because I think communication is multi-layered. So just because you say something doesn't mean I receive it. It's a two-way streak. But like people who are able to be open, honest, transparent, usually do a better job with communication.
Right.
Another green flag that I look in when it comes to partners is harm reduction, right? I'm past this stage of thinking like everything's going to be perfect and you'll never hurt me. I'm looking for people who, if you do harm, what are the steps that you take to reduce that harm?
Okay.
Right. So if, let's say she says something to me and it hurts, right? Is she the person who's like, man, just get over it and be a man about it? Or is she the person who's like, okay, hold on. How did this hurt you? What can I do better? You know what I mean? Like that type of behavior is very important. Reciprocity is very important. I think reciprocity looks different. It's not always like, if I give 100, you give 100. I think reciprocity is from a spiritual standpoint, from an emotional standpoint. If you see me like being very open and vulnerable and going out my way for something, you are reciprocating that energy. It might look differently, but you're reciprocating that energy.
Right.
Another underrated green flag is just like family dynamics.
Right.
It's not about coming from like a 2-parent home or a broken home or whatever, but it's just how do you navigate your family dynamics? That's a green flag to me.
You got one more?
Being black.
Being black.
Being black. But as funny as it is though, as funny as it is, like I think there's a level of like pride and identity that certain people have when it comes to blackness that other people kind of run away from. And it's not to say that they're any less black, but I love women who are like really, really locked into their identity and understand the importance of like the cultural and the history and the heritage and everything beyond that. So like, yeah, being black.
Nah, I love it. I love it, bro. I love it. So I want to segue into then now we talked about dating, right? We talked about green flags, all that stuff, all that type of stuff. So let's say folks are now getting into a relationship. I feel like this is so important to identify early on in the relationship, the pillars and the foundations that were the foundation of the relationship. So like, what are some concepts or things that are going to be foundational to this relationship that we have? So I wanted to ask you from your experience or your perspective, what do you think are some like pillars that a relationship should stand on?
Yeah, so I would say one of the most important ones, first to put into context, when we talk about healthy relationships, because I feel like we throw that around, healthy does not mean perfect.
Right, for sure.
And I think a lot of people think that and they believe that. Like if it's not perfect, then it's not healthy, right? Okay. Healthy is on a spectrum, and there's things where there are some days where it's going to be really, really healthy. There's some days it's going to be like teetering the line of, we could have handled this better. And then there are other days that are like completely toxic. And those are like, no, like absolutely walk away, right?
Right.
With that idea in mind, I think respect is really, really a strong foundation. So being able to respect your partner, to understand that the ways in which they want to be treated, the ways in which you want to be treated, and to like really stand tall on that. I think having boundaries is really, really important. Boundaries aren't forms of control. Boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are keys to tell people how to live in your life. Right. I think both the man, the woman, the man, the man, the woman, the woman, the whatever the identity is, like you have to have boundaries in your relationship. Right. Communication is another very, very, very strong foundation. And we talked about that a lot. And I think having mutual affection for each other is also very important. You have to like your person. And there's going to be days where you're not going to like them as much. They're going to you're going to be annoyed by them. You're going to be like, oh my God, I can't stand them. But at the end of the day, you should be able to have a level of like and love where it's like, yeah, you're annoying, but come over here. You know what I mean? Like you got to have that.
Yeah.